How's my voice?
Better.
Better than the weekend?
Better than the weekend.
That's good. Recovery mode. Okay, Scott, let's open the show. Before we get into the boardroom recap, let's just open with a little love and appreciation for our friends at Real Water Sports who flew all the way out to the boardroom show to celebrate with you. Probably try to pilfer some new surfboards for the shop.
Yeah, you know what? Trip Foreman is a treasure. He's a wonderful man, and he's a lot of fun. He always just brings so much optimism. And so Real Water Sports, he's one of the main characters behind Real Water Sports, and he does show up at the boardroom each and every year to, well, not each and every year, but many years, to look over the boards because he's on the prowl for but basically what he likes to ride. He's like me in many ways, and like you. He's always just looking for the boards that make sense for him. And anyway, I love Real Water Sports. They're great sponsors of our show, David. And yeah, big kudos.
Well, they're also giving away a 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗍 glider. And this is a 9.6 glider hand shaped by 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗍 using an original Clark foam blank. The winner's choice of a Patagonia wetsuit or a pair of sandals, rainbow sandals, goes with the board. This is valued at $5,700. All you have to do to enter this is go to realwatersports.com, put in your email address, and you will be entered to win. You don't even need to purchase anything. So that's pretty
Okay,
epic.
I'm going there right now. How cool would it be to have a 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗍 glider? I've got a few
Epic.
gliders, but to have one that Jerry shaped would be pretty damn cool.
Pretty epic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go and grab that. And then also just want to give a shout out and thanks to our friends at NVS Fins. As you can hear, I lost my voice at the boardroom show. 𝗕𝗵𝗺 from MVS brought me his homegrown lemons, made some sort of an elixir out of them with Manuka honey. And he said it was a quote medicinal elixir. I'm not sure what that means, but let me tell you, it was soothing all weekend long. I was nursing that thing. And that's the kind of friends and partners that we have here.
That's so great. I got a nice email from Leif at NVS basically saying, "Hey, great show. Bob McTavish was incredible and put us down for the same exact spot next year." So they're excited already. And I can't even think about next year. I need to put all that in the back burner.
Yeah, well, they make epic surfboard fins. So if you want to get them, check out the whole array. They have partnerships with a who's who of shapers. Go to surfnvs.com. Check it all out there.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail. A clean entry, this thing holding open, it spits.
When it spit me, I thought it was going to spit me off my board.
Comes out with the spit, spits him out.
Comes out after the spit.
Gets spat out of another good-looking wave here.
Spit.
We're just spitballing, right? Yeah, I got. Yeah, guy, David. Oh my, yeah, guy. Hey, it's the show after the boardroom show. This is the Spit Podcast. We talk all things surf and a few other things. I'm just like 3 or 4 pages from finishing Lonesome Dove, and I want to give that book, the last bit of it, like any book, all of my attention, like a slow read, like really soak it all in. What a wonderful read.
So that's what you do. You wait. Because if I only had 4 pages left, I would try to power through. You save those for a special reading?
Well, you got to understand when I go to read it, I'm usually eyes are closed by page 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it puts me out. So I don't want to. Yeah, I want to give them the full due. I want to give those pages their full due. And I don't know. Did I know I've asked you. Have you read Lonesome Dove?
You have asked me. I have not.
You got to read it. I mean, I hate to be that guy that's like, dude, best book ever. And I'm not sure it's the best book ever, but it's a wonderful book. And it's very, it's not what you expect. It's not what I expected. Of course, no book is what you expect, but it's a good read.
Did you ever watch the miniseries?
I tried to watch it actually now because I'm reading the book. My wife and I turned it on. And of course, it's just kind of lame, not, made for TV miniseries. Yeah. It's just never as good or as deep or as, I mean, the writing, 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗽, it's just an incredibly written book. And it's surprising in many ways, which is what usually is the case with a good book, right?
So TV has come a long way. And but when that first came out, I remember it being a very good miniseries.
Oh, I agree. It was like the one, it was, everyone was talking about it. Like it was a can't miss, you got to must watch TV, you know? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're taking time to still do the things you love in the midst of the chaos of the Boardroom Show. I'm still coming down off the high of the weekend. My voice, people wouldn't believe this by listening to me now. My voice is 90% better. I was unable to communicate over the course of the weekend, which is funny because last week when we were recording this, I asked you how you were holding up physically because you had lost your voice a few years ago, and you're like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'll be all right." And then I was the one to go down. So
I've got a solution for both of us getting back on our horses, so to speak, pun intended.
drinkag1.com/surf. That is a beautiful green elixir. It's got everything you need.
Well, here's the deal. As you know, when the boardroom occurs that whole week, I don't necessarily eat that well. I'm like ordering pizzas for my crew. I'm ordering a lot of bread, you know, like sandwiches. I don't get the greens that I normally get. I'm a spinach guy. I'm usually into the spinach. And so the AG1 really helps me with that, getting back to my greens and getting back to my my routine. And so yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Great point. I have been drinking that. Unfortunately, I don't know what it has in it that could protect you from losing your voice. You know, it'll keep you fortified with your immune system, but the voice box thing, just rest is the only thing. And here I am again, talking, not resting.
Well, not eating optimally is something that comes up with me when I go on surf trips too. So the little AG1 packets when I go on surf trips are insane. Like they're so good. And I'm back on the trying to get back on the less bread, more AG1, more yoga, back on my normal plan because I was just a little bit off, you know, during the week.
Well, good for you. So, what is your take on the Boardroom Show 2024? How did it go?
Wow, a great show, right? I mean, it's hard to not say that it wasn't it was just a great show. It was packed with here's what I heard from exhibitors, that the rest of the exhibitors, that the surfboards were incredible, like that the booths that were set up by the surfboard manufacturing industry were some of the best booths they've ever seen. Wow. I heard that from Christensen. I heard that from a bunch of guys that were basically like, hey, incredible what the exhibitors did. I think it's because they were more spread out. There was more breathing room. A lot of people felt that it was just a packed house of incredible surfboards. And
that's a good point.
My first takeaway.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Booth design itself, like people put a lot of effort into booth design, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, if you're ever creating a booth, what you don't want to do is pack your booth with 75 surfboards and not allow people to go into your booth and talk to you and meander and pick the boards up. You know, it's a little different than a surf shop where you're just going to put board in these racks and walk away. So I always tell people the most important thing in your booth is you know, and then the second thing I say is, oh, by the way, don't be in your booth. Stand out in the aisle and let people think it's an empty booth so they can walk in and not be intimidated.
Great advice.
Yeah. That's my turn.
What was your so you said that was the first thing. What was the second thing?
The second thing was really how endearing and lovely and sweet and engaging Bob McTavish is, and how authentic and sincere, and how excited and stoked he was. He was an incredible honoree, like next level. We've had so many great ones, and they've all been very generous with their time and very. But Bob was just like the sweetest human ever, you know?
That was the number one for me. That was the number one takeaway. And I kept experiencing it throughout the weekend. On Friday, I got some time to chat with him a bit. I was blown away by his recall and his memory and how sharp he is. I think he's 82 years old. I've done these 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗃 interviews. 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗃 is 95, I think, at this point. I don't want to misspeak, 92 or 95. And that's one thing that everybody always mentions about Dick. Bob reminded me of Dick in those ways. And he was remembering street names. Like he was telling me the story about Renny Rocker from the 50s or 60s, maybe, going up to Santa Barbara. And he's remembering the street names of where Renny lived, or where they went, remembers the dates, remembers the dimensions on a board from way back then. We're talking 60 years ago, and it was just remarkable. And so that first, but then throughout the course of the marathon of a weekend was what you were talking about, his engagedness. Like he made time for everyone, like fully engaged, just turn to the next person, spend 20 minutes with them, turn to the next person, 20 minutes with them. And it's exhausting. I mean, it really is exhausting to do. You don't realize until you're doing it. And he was there through the breakdown of the show on Sunday, still with lingerers. There was these hanger-ons who were just hanging out, hoping to get a minute of his time, and he'd spend 20 minutes with them, So it was impressive. Very, like, he lived up to his icon status and beyond it.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. We all know Bob as the sort of seedling of the shortboard revolution and his importance within the timeline of our culture. But above and beyond that, he's just a superhuman being, and it's kind of cliche, but it's true. We often say this about certain people, but man, he was just, I mean, you nailed it. He was just incredible, and he was there for everybody, and his memory was mental. I did a Q&A with him outside in front of a bunch of folks, a little discussion on the microphones, and it was mind-blowing how, like you mentioned, like he's like, well, that board was different because it had 2.5 inches of tail rocker. The other one was flat, like he just knew dimensions from 50, 60 years ago. And he knew what George Greeno was wearing, and his recall was great.
From a surfboard design standpoint, I mean, I really got to get some time to get him on the podcast and like do maybe multiple interviews, because you can never actually do a comprehensive job of documenting what, his importance. But he was giving a story to me about Renny Rocker coming to 𝗬𝗎, and there was a section of 𝗬𝗎 that nobody could make, or like it was very hard to make. It's just a very fast section for the boards that they were riding at the time. And Renny would kind of walk up to the front and just trim through that section every time. He's like, our Australian guys, occasionally there'd be like one dude who'd make it and everybody was impressed. Renny made wave after wave after wave. And so after the session, I went and I checked out the bottom of his board, and there was this kind of deviation in the natural flow of the rocker line to where it flattened out at a certain point. And he described exactly where it was measurements wise. And he goes, so I implemented that. That was the Renny Rocker. And I implemented that in my board. And then sure enough, it worked for anybody who was riding my version of that board. And we still to this day in the factory refer to it as the Renny Rocker. And I'm like, wow, that's a huge little leap in progression from one distinct session. But he has a million stories like that.
Yeah, he does. The Renny Rocker, that's a cool anecdote. And just a sweet guy. And I hope everybody that was there got a chance to experience what we experienced. One of the other standouts, quite frankly, was the shapers that were in the shape off were all one sort of like a little bit younger generation. I think they were just younger than we normally have, which I absolutely love. And then they showed their chops in the shaping bay, all of them shaped incredibly. They're all, I mean, it's just such a great thing, right? To have the next generation of shapers all with incredible shaping chops. It makes, I think, the industry feel good about, keeping the importance of building a surfboard moving forward with the next generation. So I was excited. Michael Arenal from Ventura won the shape off. Second place was Ryan Birch. It was extremely close. I didn't really get into the weeds with the differences with the boards with the guys, but Ryan Birch is a 2-time champion. He's actually a 3-time champion because he won. We used to have this thing called the Young Guns of Shaping, and we did that in 2010 down in San Diego at the convention center when we honored Simon Anderson and Ryan Birch 14 years ago, won that. And then he's won, of course, the Icons of Foam. He won the Wayne Lynch and the Pat Rawson. And so Birch is obviously no slouch. Everyone knows who he is. But Michael Arenal, defending champion, went back to back. And so hats off to the young shapers.
Super impressive shaping. Oh, would you say that those boards were more difficult than boards of the past?
Like
Got the cashmere on.
I've spilled my AG1.
Oh no. On the cashmere, dude. You got to hand wash that thing.
Oh my.
How did those boards stack up in terms of difficulty compared to past shape-offs?
Well, look, the final board was extremely difficult, right? Because it was stringerless and you had to draw the template because of the close tolerance blank that we provided. You had to draw the template of the nose onto the tail onto the nose, which we did for them because we were like, oh my God, this is going to take a long time anyway. And so Bob drew the template on for them, but they still only had like, I want to say, a quarter of an inch of area to find the board without going too deep. And of course, David, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to explain that a little bit in more detail for those who don't know. It's the blanks available are there isn't really a blank available that is perfectly suited for that board. So obviously if you're going to buy a surfboard blank, you don't want to waste a ton of foam. So if you're going to make a 9.2, you try to buy like a 9.3 blank and just shave a little bit of foam off of it. But the rocker profile has to fit. That board is of such an yesteryear that we don't really have blanks that fit that style of board anymore. So the only blank that would work was a blank that you had to turn around, nose to tail, like Scott said, and draw the template on backwards. And even then, the way that the rocker profile worked, if you looked at the profile of the blank and took the Shape 3D software image of the board and placed it into the image of the blank, like the nose is touching at almost at the tip, of the tail, what has become the tail. The tail is touching, and then the bottom is touching at a certain point. So you can't shave too much foam off of those 3 points. Otherwise you will have overshaped the blank, but you need to take a lot of foam off of other points. So you need to, it's like you said, close tolerance in 3 specific far apart areas. And then everywhere in between, you need to take a lot of foam out. So it was a very difficult board to shape out of that blank specifically. But that was the best blank available.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a curveball for those guys. And add to that, David, as you know, the tail rocker, because there's no stringer, it's stringerless. When you shape that thing, it kind of just sits and dampens. There's nothing rigid in it to keep the form that you're trying to get. When you're trying to pull 4.5 inches of tail rocker out of the board, it continues to sink. And so as a shaper, you're like, well, I just cut down a bunch of foam off the tail. Where's my 4 inches? And the secret there is that you can only add the tail rocker when you're laminating the board. You have to put either bricks on it, or the other option is to put dowels from the floor up to the tail to get the tail rocker to rise to that place where you need it, and then laminate it while either the brick or the dowels are into the board. And so the shapers were like scratching their heads going, hey, where's the tail rocker? I'm cutting the shit out of this tail. And of course, that leads to overshaping. And that was the big secret that Bob didn't tell him, that you're not going to be able to get the tail rocker out just purely through shaping. The tail rocker actually comes in the laminating process. And that threw a massive curveball at those guys.
Super tricky.
Yeah.
So, and it was a close, I mean, I was talking to some of the judges while they were judging. It was a very, very close tie, or not tie, but close, between Michael and Ryan at the end. The other super close one was I believe Michael Arenal versus Josh Hall in round one. They were like, we could almost toss a coin on this one to determine a winner. So really great shaping across the board.
Yeah, each and every heat was tight because I was there to announce the winner. And generally what it was, you know, Bob had it broken down into what he thought were the most important characteristics. And he would start with the outline, and then he would go to rocker, and then he would go to rails, and then he would go to bottom contour. And that was sort of the way that he envisioned it. And usually, well, always, he chose the board that was the closest in those going down that list. So yeah, great competition. And look, it's a fun competition. These guys are competitive, but they all understand that we're there to honor Bob. It's not so much about them as it is about Bob, and that they've been chosen to honor Bob. And of course, highlighting and lifting up the craft of designing and building surfboards.
Yeah. Grant Noble, who I've only ever seen on Instagram, I'd never met before, finished his board 30 minutes early in round one and won.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen before. So that was impressive, just his speed, you know? So
yeah, he's an impressive kid. It's fun. I mean, I don't know how much of a kid these guys are. I think they're all in their 30s, but it seems like they're forever Groms, you know what I mean?
it's great, by the way. Speaking of which, great to see Ryan Birch with a kid and him just like cherishing that baby, you know? Like the moment he puts down the planer, goes and picks up the baby and just it's having a blast being a father, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. And that's something you can relate to as well. And to keep this conversation going real quick, I just want to point out that best in show, Nick Heinrich built a surfboard that was just incredible, a beautiful twinser. He really took the spirit of Will Jobson's design, understood the depths of it. He did stuff with his board that I'm not sure anybody else did, which is one of the things that Jobson did is that he would embed the fin into the foam, not just glass it on, but embed those canards into the foam for strength. Nick went to great lengths to do that. He incorporated the channel off the tail that Jobson's famous for, but did some other added some of his own stuff to it, where the curve of the channel went to the base of the big twin fin. The tips of his little moon swallowtail went to the base of the twin fin. He did a bunch of stuff. He incorporated Jobson's logo into his logo, did some symmetry there. The board just looked like it was just gorgeous. It was far and away it was an easy choice. You know what I mean? At least I'm not a judge, but from what the judges tell me, it was far and away the winner.
Who's Nick Heinrich?
I really don't know Nick. I met him one time at the show this weekend. I follow him on Instagram and he emails me occasionally, but you know how
I was gonna say, I think I follow him too. I know his name for sure, and I think it must be from Instagram. Is his label Nick Heinrich? Yeah, it's Heinrich Surfboards. That's right. He's San Diego guy.
Yeah, he's a full San Diego guy. You know, in the vein of fisherman guy, probably out of Point Loma, Sunset Cliffs area. I don't know Nick. But I'm so stoked to have met him. I met him and either his girlfriend or wife would have. I'm not sure if they're married, but and this is a salt of the earth kind of San Diego guy who you know, fishing, hardcore fishing, works his, you know, that's how he makes his money, pulling fish out of the sea. So
well, it's that's the whole point of the best in show. I mean, maybe not the whole point, but part of it is anybody can submit. It doesn't have to be a name who's famous, who you know. Nick is he's got a few thousand Instagram followers. He's not a celebrity on Instagram, but he's an incredible board builder.
Yeah, and we you know, this year's vote was a public vote as well as our expert judges, and Nico from Portugal.
Wave
I don't
gliders.
even know his last name. Do you know his last name?
No, I've known Nico for probably a decade and I don't know his last name.
He goes, I know him as Nico. I met him for the first time. Nico got second place, wave gliders.
Right.
So Nico's got a booth next year at the show. And then third place in Best in Show was Jordan Brazee with
Right.
that beautiful Valoric surfboard that he made. And again, public vote, the public vote was through the roof. It was so great. It was so great to be able to include everyone's opinions. And the winning board was far and away, it got the most votes.
I just Googled Nico wave gliders to try to find his last name. Can't find it. Even on his own website, I can't find it. He just refers to himself as Nico on his website. Maybe he's like Madonna.
How so? Oh, one
Like she
name.
has, yeah, one name. Or like Moon from South
Yeah.
Korea. You only need
Yeah.
one name.
Yeah. Madonna Ciccone. That's
Right,
actually her
right, right.
real name, by the way. Her name's Madonna.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, also, shout out to the listeners. I mean, it was an endless stream of listeners that coming up and saying hi, and really, really, I just really enjoy it. Like hearing people's stories, it always blows me away how interesting other people's lives are. And getting to know about the people who are listening to this show week to week. Some of it is very sentimental, like people saying, we were their only tether to surf culture when they were deployed in the military or they had to move away from the ocean for a period of time. Or like this guy, Steve, who lives in Alaska. He's lived in Alaska for 40 years and surfs up there. Flew down just for this, basically. And was rad, just like a hardcore surfer who happens to live in a really rugged environment for he made that choice for a lot of good reasons, loves it up there and makes a living as a fisherman, but is just full surf turkey, just happens to live in a really cold place. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. The listeners that came up to us at the show and said hi, which we really appreciate. I really, really love it when they come up. And I'm not sure if you met the gentleman from Maine. There was guys from Rhode Island. And I had guys come up to me that have been listening to my show since, back in the Surfer Magazine days, and so it was just a lot of fun engaging with the listeners. And I know I speak for David when I say thank you for coming up and saying hello, because it's cool.
It's the highlight. I mean, it really does. Look, we'd probably do the work either way, but it really does validate the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was cool to see Chaz. Speaking of podcasts,
Yeah.
Chaz was doing, I think he did some podcasts on site. Were you there? I guess he did Devin Howard's mom, Karen Howard. Did they do a podcast together?
He did. Yeah. He got in the weekend van. One of your exhibitors, the weekend vans, he jumped in there and closed the door to kind of protect from the sound of the show, and then recorded episodes with, a bunch of people.
That's cool.
By the way,
let me just quickly say that the Best in Show competition, we couldn't have done it without Go Fast Campers, who were the presenting sponsor of Best in Show. The category was Twinser. And a big shout out to those. Those were really cool campers that they brought into the show. So thank you, Go Fast Campers.
What was the other vehicle that was there that looked almost like a Land Rover Defender?
It was a Mossy Inuos Grenadier.
That thing was crazy. I'd never heard of that before. I've never seen it before. I mean, it's rad looking.
Yeah, it was there was a couple of them. They were cool, right? I hadn't seen them.
So Mossy's the dealer name. Is Inuos the manufacturer name?
I should know more about it.
And then Grenadier, it seems like, is the make of the.
Yeah, that might be the case. It seems like it's got like either a European or a South African kind of vibe to it. It's got one of those real rugged yet premium type of vehicles.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're going to go on safari or if you're going to go to Baja, it looked like I said, like a Defender or a Land Cruiser, but built for going into streams, over mountains, over rocks, all that sort of stuff. Really, really cool looking vehicle. But I'd never seen one on the road. There's probably none on the road. They're probably strictly for off-roading. But I'd never
Yeah,
seen one before.
it's a pretty hardcore vehicle as I'm looking here, you know, like what they're proud about is best in class engine, ladder frame chassis, permanent four-wheel drive, 3 locking differentials, solid beam axles, you know, all the kind of car stuff that makes it pretty performance oriented regarding the powertrain and the dynamics and so forth and so forth. And then of course comfort and refinement.
Yeah, really cool. Saw all sorts of cool vehicles there, man. Wayne Rich's car, Barry Snyder's car, Chris Ruddy's car. I don't know if that's his car or not, but really, it's almost like a car show.
Yeah, there was a lot of, we like to have those off-road vehicles on site, and then yeah, guys are stoked on their cars, you know.
Yeah,
Christensen's got a sick ass car. He didn't bring it, but we'll get him to bring it one of these times.
yeah, very cool. Well, congratulations on a phenomenal show. Said last year, I don't know how you won up last year, but here we are yet again with a gauntlet laid out for 2025.
I know. I don't even want to think about it for a while. I don't know. It's
Can you
hard to
take a vacation or enjoy
uh
some time off?
I don't know about a vacation, but
You got California Gold Surf Auction still.
yeah, I got the auction. I do want to real quick give a shout out to my team. Tim Crozier, Johnny O, Sunny D on Instagram, who ran my best in show for me. Shaver and Nick and Gavin and Tracy Taylor and Ed, Special Ed, all of these guys. I'm probably forgetting some. My son Hank, my daughter Tessa, of course, my wife is really the backbone of the deal. You know, and the Waynes, Teresa Wayne. I can't do the show without all of their guidance and help, and they're just very supportive. I have such a great crew, so thank you to those people.
And such positive people too. Everybody's got smiling with bells on throughout the entire weekend. Super helpful. There's people always available at arms, you know, like need something, turn around and there's somebody there right available to help. So you do a great job with them.
And US Blanks, they're the number one reason that we're in existence is US Blanks. They're our presenting sponsor. The crew there, they're like family to me. They've been with us for so long that I'm just so grateful of what Kim and Jeff have done and their support for the show and the vision of the show.
Yeah. And the boards look good. The foam looked good.
I left with 2 boards. I don't know how many boards you I bet you didn't get any boards. I'm jealous. This is kind of like whoever doesn't leave with boards wins for between you and I.
It's true though. I mean, so Jordan Brazy was had his best in show, 3rd place finisher at the end of the weekend. And he's like, yeah, I'm so psyched. I took best in show, or I got 3rd. But he's like, I don't want to bring this thing all the way back to Virginia with me. He's like, do you want it? And I was
You're
like,
kidding.
I didn't take it. No. I was like, honestly, dude, I cannot bring home a surfboard. I will
Yeah.
not catch the wrath of the wife. It's just not a good decision. I would love to have that board. I just cannot come home with a surfboard right now. So I declined the offer. I don't know if somebody else grabbed it or not, but if not, it is available and somebody should grab it.
Well, full disclosure, you know, the public can vote on best in show, and that's the board that I voted for. I put in my vote as a public member. I thought that was just a super sick board. It was really, it had enough contemporary stuff, but it had a very futuristic vibe, which I appreciate. And so that was my vote. But
By the way,
got publicly on the public vote.
another thing I like seeing is the displays for the best in show have gotten a little bit more elaborate each year. And
Yeah,
Jordan's maybe was the best.
yeah. Tell us about that, right? It
It
had
was like
some
it was on a
Star
turntable.
Wars.
And yeah, it was like the board was, like you said, futuristic. And he had it set up on what looked like a turntable. I don't know what the actual machinery mechanism was, but it looked like it was some sort of a science experiment from outer space that aliens were studying, basically. And it was just spinning around, you know?
Yeah, he did a great job. So
So
that
what are
was
the 2 boards you left with?
well, they were actually boards that had been made made for me prior to the show. Like Ryan Seiko and I have been working on the board that I brought to El Salvador.
Yep.
That quad Seiko surfboards. We made that into a 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃, and we had Justin at Dark Arts work his magic with it. And it was Ryan's idea. Ryan's like, hey, I want to do you one in Dark Arts. And I go, well, let's make it a 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃. And so it's got Kevlar, like Justin did some, it's got the, I don't know, 4-inch, 3-inch strip of EPS down the middle. Then it's got polyurethane foam for the rest of the board. And then the Dark Arts carbon layup and some Kevlar somewhere. The idea being that we're going to get some dampening. It won't be quite as chattery, and a little bit more weight, because they were making boards that were, for me, I'm kind of old school. I need a little bit of weight. I can't have a 4-pound surfboard. I need a 6-pound surfboard. And so Justin did such a great job of recognizing my needs. And by the way, I rode the board for the first time yesterday, and I was super stoked on it. Like, it was just flying around. I can't wait. I'm kind of geeking right now during our show to go get wet this morning and ride it.
The thing looked amazing. Yeah, it looked like such a high performance version. I mean, it looked amazing. That Dark Arts construction, though, I've talked to those guys a little bit about that. Traditionally, they've done EPS foam with the carbon kind of vacuum bag plus, and they wanted to introduce something that was not EPS or wasn't all EPS. So that's where they came up with this. I mean, they still had clients who love PU, basically. They love the Dark Arts construction, but they love PU. And so Dark Arts came up with, I don't think they've even branded it, but it's what you said. It's a polyurethane blank, but then this, instead of a stringer, it has a couple of inches of EPS in place of the stringer. And then the lamination is different. It's a Kevlar lamination with some other materials as well. And they look incredible. Like, they have almost like a dark blue. Instead of being black, they're like a really, really dark bluish, purplish kind of color. And they just look super cool. And even those guys like Tony at Dark Arts, who's been riding EPS for like 15 years straight, he's loving the Kevlar glue up or lamination. So
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Hey, let's take a quick break here and then we'll come right back.
Sounds good.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What is something that scares you? For me personally, I always put off whatever I'm afraid of, whether it's doing my taxes or having a difficult conversation with somebody. And as I procrastinate, the fear and the anxiety only festers. Then, once I actually address the issue, I can usually knock it out with no problem. And then I just wonder why I let something that was so doable create such angst. It turns out that not facing my fears has actually been more problematic for me than facing my fears. And guess what? Therapy is what has helped me discover this. So perhaps therapy is the exact thing that you've been avoiding. And if you've ever considered therapy, now is the time, because BetterHelp makes it more convenient than ever. It's entirely online. It's flexible and designed to fit your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge, which I think is key. In 2015, I needed help, and it took me 3 different therapists to actually find the right fit. I was exhausted, by the way, after sharing my full story 3 times. And I think that a lot of people in that situation may simply think that therapy isn't for them. But for me, I found that it was just the first 2 therapists weren't the right fit. So it was worth it for me to try that 3rd time. And in fact, that course of therapy only lasted 3 months. And then the therapist basically looked at me and said, "Do you feel like you still need to be here?" And the answer was simply, no. I feel great now. I appreciate this 3 months, but I haven't felt the need to go back ever since. So overcome your fear with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/surf to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/surf. HelloFresh.com/freesurf. You get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. But of course, the main hiccup with home cooking is the workload and the time required. Picking a recipe, making a list, going shopping, prepping, and cutting all the ingredients, HelloFresh solves so much of that, and they do it really, really well. So well, in fact, that they've become America's #1 meal kit. Autumn is my favorite season of eating warm, filling, but nutrient-packed dishes. HelloFresh offers 50 recipes with plenty of options to fit your family's lifestyle, whether you want quick and easy meals, classic style meals, fitness-minded, or vegetarian. Ingredients are also pre-portioned, and these are restaurant-quality meals that you make in your own kitchen with simple instructions and without the price tag of takeaway and in less time than it takes to get delivery. So there's nothing sacrificed. It is all upside. Speaking of which, we'll actually get you 10 free meals when you go through our URL, which is hellofresh.com/freesurf. That's applied across 7 boxes. It's new subscribers only. It varies by plan, but it is 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going through hellofresh.com/freesurf. It is America's #1 meal kit, and it can be your key to delicious, wholesome meals without the hassle of shopping or prep. Go to hellofresh.com/freesurf. That's hellofresh.com/freesurf and enjoy.
Yeah, Guy, we're back. The Spit Podcast.
Love an energetic comeback from commercial.
Hey, where do we go next, David? How about
Abu Dhabi. Did you see the controversy on Instagram?
No, what happened?
All right, well, let me bring you up to speed then, Scott. Earlier, so Abu Dhabi is obviously included in the 2025 WCT schedule, which we can discuss that schedule as well, because that's news since last time we recorded. But first, Mikey Wright took to Instagram on, I believe, Saturday, and then more recently, 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗄 to state, quote, WSL released their 2025 tour schedule, and the second event is the Abu Dhabi Pro in the United Arab Emirates. How in the hell does WSL think it's okay to sell an event to a location where it is illegal to be an LGBTQ plus person? They have a 2-time world champ, Tyler Wright, who is openly gay and who has a pride flag on her jersey. So now Tyler has to decide if she's going to damage her career by missing the event or compete knowing she is risking her life going to a place where being a LGBTQ plus person is punishable by death. But let's put this the poor Tyler's potential execution aside for a moment. WSL is having a women's professional surfing event in a country where Emirati women live under male guardianship. Honor killings can go unpunished. The victim's family can pardon the murderer. Marital rape is not criminalized. It's a major destination for sex trafficking. The WSL should be putting their health, safety, and well-being of their athletes over money, and the athletes should boycott the event like they did in South Africa when Sunny Garcia couldn't compete because at the time Black people were not allowed on the beach. Hosting events in countries that have blatant human rights violations should be unacceptable. Do you agree? 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗄𝗃.
Well, I absolutely agree. Look, human rights, basic civil rights. A person should have autonomy over their body and their sexual preference, and it shouldn't be something they have to hide. I hope that Tyler Wright takes this opportunity, and others that are speaking out now, to create to draw attention to the human rights abuses in this nation during the event. She should put it all out there on the line. I know she's not the one complaining because she's probably concerned about her safety, but look, whatever happens, whatever she does, whatever Tyler does, it's weird, right? It's because some will say, well, look, if you hold it in Abu Dhabi, what does it do? It brings this issue, it bubbles this issue to the surface, and it gives us a chance to shine the light on it. Whereas if you just don't do an event in a nation state that has human rights and basic civil rights and human rights abuses and violations, the opportunity to just kind of keep doing what they're doing because nobody is talking about it. No one is noticing it. So
well, that's up to the WSL to make that move. If they choose to use their platform to shine a light on what you're talking about, that would be a bold move of theirs. I don't think they've done that thus far. I think more
that's kind of the only move, except
because
for
they look like hypocrites otherwise. Like they're the ones who are flying the equality flag up until now. So to make a decision like this absolutely looks hypocritical unless they do what you said, which is grab the microphone while they're in country and be like, we're supporting Tyler Wright and we will defend her while she's here.
right. But look, I doubt they'll do that. I hope that they do that, but I doubt they will do that. This is more a showcase for the one aspect of the business that is a business, which is the Kelly Slater wave pool, which I think this is their opportunity in the international space to go look at what we have here. This could be a part of your nation state's sporting opportunity, you know, a beautiful Kelly Slater wave pool. And so it's going to be interesting what occurs here, you know. But it's pretty egregious.
It's embarrassing. It's
to
an
be
embarrassing
all-
moment.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassing moment for surfing where wave pools is what we're shilling. And when I say we, I should not say we. It's what the WSL is shilling. And then they're doing it in Abu Dhabi. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think ultimately, I love the idea of a boycott. I don't know.
What should the
I think
boycott look?
well, it should look like the most powerful version of it would be all surfers decline to go. If all surfers banded together and declined to go to the event, I think that would state everything that needs to be stated to the WSL and to Abu Dhabi. Not that they care.
Well, that
but-
kind of
but
thing
that
would
won't
get what we need is national exposure for the boycott, and that's what would do it. If you just had one surfer that decided to let the first wave over heat go by or something, it's not going to be a blip on the national news spotlight. You need a big statement to get the CNNs of the world to go, oh my God, this is interesting.
Yeah, but my point is Abu Dhabi doesn't care no matter what because their morals are so deeply ingrained. There's nothing that a surf event is going to do that's going to shift the culture. You know what
I agree.
mean?
This isn't really about trying to move Abu Dhabi's needle ethically. This is more about shine the light on the hypocrisy of the human rights violations.
True. Great call. So I think it'd be amazing. First of all, Tyler Wright absolutely should not go, and I doubt she would. But I think all the other surfers should stand in solidarity and not go. But there will be somebody, Gabriel Medina, I'm looking at you, who's like, screw that. I need point. I'm going to get my points. I'm going to go there and take the win for the event and surf that pool by myself for 4 days straight, you know? And so ultimately, I don't see everybody standing in solidarity. I don't think that there's solidarity within the group. But I would love to see it.
Well, the question is, what is, in my opinion, Kelly needs to have a statement here. And I think he'll just go silent because it's not good for the business to have,
Agreed. Yeah.
the namesake of the business all of a sudden go, wait a minute. Why didn't I think of this 8 years ago when we started this whole deal?
Well, the other
what happens.
reality,
Very interesting.
in practicality, I don't think that the government officials would try to. I think they would let Tyler Wright come in and compete in the event and not create an issue with it at all.
Yeah.
And so whether Tyler wants to go ahead and do that is up to her. But yeah, I think that this event could go off without a hitch, and they wouldn't make a martyr out of her.
By the way, for the record, I don't know anything about the politics of Abu Dhabi. I'm just going off of what you just told me, when you read what 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 said. And you and I have had emails and texts come in from listeners that live there, that are surfers. I know there's a guy that's a pilot that lives there that listens, and they might be able to set the record straight, at least their perspective on it. Because I know that I've received correspondence from them where they're like, Scott, you kind of don't know what you're talking about. This is really what it's like here. And they kind of characterize it as a up and coming cosmopolitan, metropolitan, vibrant arts, vibrant. It's not like this regime of oppression that you sometimes hear about. And so I'm interested. I think it's one of these things where it's, and again, I need to be straightened out here, but I wonder if it's one of these things where the stratification of the society is such that if you're poor and you're gay, you're screwed. But if you're rich and wealthy and you're gay, we're going to just look the other way and good for you. You know, like I'm wondering, and I don't know that, but I'm wondering if that's the situation where once again, the poor are the ones that really get oppressed. And if you're like pro surfer girl that's gay, come on in, we'll let you slide in. You can do your thing. We won't say anything. It's cool. Move on.
Well, I think there's an element of truth to that. There's a letter of the law, and then there's kind of a spirit of the law. They're not going to necessarily enforce the letter of it unless you wave the flag in their face. So I think in that example, even if you were wealthy, you wouldn't necessarily be flamboyantly out and gay and waving the flag, which that's where the problem comes in, because the WSL has been waving the flag in other countries, you know, like in Australia, putting the pride flag on her jersey and allowing her to make public statements and stuff like that. I don't think they would do that in Abu Dhabi.
Well, this does a couple of things, and we're part of it right now. Is this brings eyeballs on the WSL, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're in the WSL offices right now. It gives them, they have months to kind of formulate a plan if they haven't already regarding what to do about Tyler Wright and the apparent, according to 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, the apparent human and civil rights abuses that take place there. And by the way, I have no reason to doubt what 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃 is saying. She's kind of like the expert in the field, so to speak, at least amongst the surf tribe. But I'd like to learn more about it. I'd like to know when the last person was jailed, what their name is, who are these people that have been oppressed. I think we need to get their names out there. I think if Tyler or anyone was to do some sort of, attention grabbing, trying to put the spotlight on this, they would find out a couple of people that they could raise the flag and do this in their names, whoever these poor people are that have been killed because they were gay or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot. It actually makes the Abu Dhabi the best event on tour all of a sudden.
If you don't care about surfing, it does.
Oh, man.
So the other events, by the way, in regard to the tour schedule, the cut now comes after 7 events instead of 5. Sunset Beach is gone. That's actually replaced by the wave pool in Abu Dhabi. Lowers is added to the main season in June. Snapper is back. Cloudbreak has been shifted to finals day. So those are Snapper is back. I said that. So those are the main kind of shifts on tour.
So the
𝗕𝗃𝗃𝗃 is back.
The 3 that I saw that were semi-problematic were Abu Dhabi, Peniche, but Peniche could be good. Don't get me wrong, could be good. But as far as world-class, like dream tour type of scenarios, Brazil, Peniche, and Abu Dhabi were the ones where I kind of went, Peniche is a great wave, but is it going to be a world-class wave in that 2-week window? What's the dice roll? I imagine it'll be completely contestable, 4 to 5 feet, but it's not 4 to 5. It's not 𝗕𝗃𝗃 at 5 feet.
No, even when it's on, it doesn't add a lot to this schedule. You could easily remove it from the schedule and the tour would still be really strong. So
those 3 events seem like events where the Chamber of Commerce in those nation states and those cities and those municipalities said, "Hey, we'll write you a check, please come." And WSL was like, "Absolutely, we'll be there." Which I get, by the way, I get that. It's part of the business. But from an end user standpoint, you look at the rest of the tour, 𝗕𝗃𝗃𝗃, Pipe, Cloudbreak, Chopu, Lowers,
Snapper. I'm glad to see
Snapper, Snapper. I mean, they all look great. I like the tour. There's just 3 that are big, huge, actually not even question marks, should not be on there, but there's sort of those stops where there's some guaranteed revenue for the business.
It's a improvement. This is a step in the right direction. The 2 steps back for me, though, are the tour doesn't need to be longer and bigger. It needs to be more focused. And this is a bigger, longer tour. The other thing is the cut is moved after event 7. The best part about last year's tour was the back half of the tour, where the events are shorter because there's fewer surfers. And so I think moving the cut back, it was done in sympathy to all the surfers who don't get enough quote time to really figure out the tour, but that's not the right move. The right move is fewer surfers across all events.
And here's the thing, in today's age of pro surfing, these guys have handlers, professionals, they have coaches. These guys better be ready for their moment. Like, to raise your hand and go, I wasn't. It's not like back in the day where they threw like sent Taj at 20 years old to France with like, whoever, Luke Egan and freaking Matt Hoy, and they're like, yeah, let's go party all night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a different age. So I think that excuse that, oh, this poor kid didn't know what he was getting into is kind of bullshit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those poor kids, there's some qualifiers. The event at 𝗧𝗂𝗄𝗃 is not yet wrapped up, and that will fully lock in the qualifiers. But on the men's side, I think we have 7. We have Marco Mignot from 𝗬𝗟. I think he hails France as his nation state, but I think he lives in 𝗬𝗟. Qualified for the 2025 tour. Joel Vaughn from Australia. David Silva from Brazil. We've seen him on tour before. George Patar from Australia. Sammy Pupo, Ian Gouveia, and Alejo Muniz on the men's side. Dead silence from my co-host.
I think they need to move that cut to after the first event. No, look,
after pipe.
I'm not against these young men trying to make a living on tour, but I just think that the tour is better when it's lean and mean. So my commentary isn't against these guys. It's against the concept of whatever it is, 36 surfers on tour. I just think it's too many.
I mean, the funny thing is, when I think of any of these guys, I can envision them ripping small waves because that's all we've seen them do. And now they're going on to this big stage at Pipe and Chopu and J-Bay, which is, of course, where we want to see them actually surf. But the CS Tour does not, breed them for world-class waves.
Yeah, I mean, George Patar is very interesting, only because it's kind of fresh. We've seen him on tour and as a wild card, he did pretty well, as I recall. He took down some big names.
I mean, we saw him, I feel like he won the Snapper event last year, and then we saw him do really well at the US Open. He's absolutely ripping. But again, small waves. All I can think about is him doing.
Wasn't he at Bell's?
You're right. I think he got a wild card at Bell's. Yeah.
I think he did pretty well. And then, there's some names that we've seen before that I'm kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. They're all great surfers. We're not here to say they're not good surfers. We're here to say you had your chance. Okay, we're going to give you one other chance. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, if they don't absolutely light it up, I almost feel like that's it. No more chances. You know what I mean? But then I think of guys like Jadson Andre, who just pulled at our heartstrings for so long that at the end of his career, we were like pro Jadson because he was just such a grinder. I think so.
But in the landscape of surfing, he didn't make any meaningful big contribution. I mean, I guess the air reverse.
I think he's the reason my fantasy surfer team is named Floatergate. Wasn't that Jadson? It was Floater.
It was Adriana.
Well, anyway, Floatergate's the name of my fantasy surfer team because
I'll tell you that
Floatergate that happened in Brazil like 6 or 7 years ago.
So the most exciting addition is Aaron Brooks on the women's side, just qualified.
Oh, that's great.
That's going to be a huge shakeup. I mean, when you saw what she did at Chopu, I mean, she was just balls to the wall, like full like pedal to the metal surfing, turn after turn.
It was insane. It was next level. She basically, all the competitors kind of sat back and went, oh, well, I mean, we're going to get smoked. She went out there and she had that wonderful thing, which is youth, where you kind of don't even know the moment. You don't have 10 years of sleeping on the moment. She's just like, yeah, I'm just freaking out here at the Cloudbreak event. Of course I am, and she absolutely just tore it to shreds. So that's super exciting, right? Did Sierra Kerr make it?
Sierra Kerr, no, she's not currently. It's Sally Fitzgibbons, Bella Kenworthy, Isabella Nichols, and Aaron Brooks. currently.
Where's Sierra Kerr? Is she even in the running, or is she not even doing it? Don't know.
No, I don't think so. I'll look it up while we're talking, but I don't
Well,
think that she was in
that's pretty
contention.
exciting. Sally has been on tour a long time. I mean,
Yeah, that's
talk
not
about-
exciting.
she's been on for a long time. And I like Sally Fitzgibbons. I don't know her, met her once, but I like her spirit. She seems great. But I'm excited about the young. I mean, look, the women's side of the draw is kind of more exciting. Katie, Aaron Brooks.
Yeah.
It seems like a real shakeup. Is Stephanie Gilmore back on tour? Didn't she come
No.
back? No.
No, I don't think so. I don't know actually
Who's
what her
that?
statement is.
Tyler Wright's the one kind of established world champion that's on the women's side of the, right?
Still holding it down, yeah.
Yeah.
The 5th position right now is filled by Vahini Fierro. And I don't think that she's officially locked in yet. I think she needs to make another heat or two. But she's in the 5th position currently.
Okay, look, we all want her in there.
Yeah.
Let's, you know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
I hope to God she makes it through.
All right. Well, my voice, I've done all the talking I should do for today.
Oh, wait, I got to show you something. You got
okay.
a hard out?
No, I don't.
Look what I got in the mail yesterday.
Ooh, Kelly Slater coffee table book documented by Todd Glazer.
Yes, I still have the packaging. We're going to look at it together real quick. I'm just going to quickly look. What?
You just ruined it by opening it. You could have saved that thing and sold it on eBay in 10 years.
No. I'm here to support Todd. I bought it mostly because Todd's such a great photographer that I'm imagining that this is going to be insane. So it's hard to see with my lighting in my office here.
You could see it better now without that glossiness on it. As we stated, what's going to make this book, what's going to make this book phenomenal is just Todd's access with Kelly, like traveling with him in his private inner sanctums. I remember that was from the Taylor Steele. Oh no, that's an injury.
I think that might be 𝗕𝗵𝗺𝗃 when he injured his ankle.
You're right. Broke his foot.
Look at these.
Kelly's golf swing.
That's a fucking insane finish right there, Kelly. Look at that. Let's just take another look. That's friggin' professional golf right there, man. That is a great finish. That is such a good photo.
It's a great photo. There's a great photo for an anatomy class too. I should study that.
I mean, this thing is just incredible. There's some standard classic pipe shots.
Yeah.
But there's some, this is me just looking at this for the first time. What an incredible book.
Let's call it your must-see moment. Sweet.
Here's the book again. It's available. I bought it, I think I don't know where I bought it, but I bought it. I pre-ordered it. Todd Glaser's Kelly Slater. It says it's narrated by Kelly, which I guess means he wrote all the captions.
It's published by Rizzoli, famous coffee table book publisher. So yeah, you can find it. I know they've been doing lots of press for it, so you can find it on their Instagram feeds or link through bios. But
here's an interesting photo. Looks like his garage, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I don't know where it is, but look what.
Andy Irons, Kevin Ansell painting of Andy Irons in Kelly's garage.
That's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm excited about that book. That looks like a really great, there's been a few books, more than a few books on Kelly Slater out there. And this one seems to cover it all, and it's just big, high impact imagery.
It's behind the scenes look.
It's a must-have, must-see moment.
Must-see moment presented by Treeswax. Great to see Treeswax front and center at the Boardroom Show, right when you walked in the door too.
Absolutely. Treeswax performance, petroleum-free surfing wax. Why wouldn't you use it?
Yep. Treeswax.com. All right, Scott, thank you very much.
Yeah. Look, David, until next time, adios and aloha.
All right. Sorry, my voice feeling abrasive right now.
Oh, that's fine. I'm glad to get out of here.
All right, cool. I'll see you next week.